Hello and welcome everybody for a webinar on general myology. My dear students, we are learning general myology these days and we have finished first two episodes of general myology. And today I welcome you all back again for episode 3 of general myology. And of course, this is the last episode on myology. In first two episodes, we studied the introductory part of myology, the definition of muscle, types of muscles. We also studied the skeletal muscle in detail because those are the bulk of muscles of the body. And today I will take you little further to the last part of study of general myology. And I hope you remember different types of muscles. At the outset, let me tell you that there are four types of muscles, but three of them are major. So commonly it is called that there are three main types of muscles, but in all there are four types of muscles: skeletal muscles, smooth muscles, cardiac muscle, and myoepithelial cells. That you all remember, I hope so. Please don't forget. So let us get set go for further study of myology, general myology today. And today we will deal with one common topic, and that is how muscles are named. My dear students, by this time you know at least few muscles. I hope so. You know some names of the muscle. For example, if you have already started studying the upper limb, you must have already studied the pectoralis major muscle or deltoid muscle. I hope so. And these names are derived from some related points like location, action, direction of muscular fibers, shape of the muscle, number of heads of origin or insertion or divisions, what we call origin, according to insertion, or due to relative size of a muscle. For example, if you take pectoralis major muscle, which is not here, pectoralis comes from location because pectora is your region. It comes in pectora, so it is called as pectoralis. Lis is a suffix, so pectoralis. And it is major. Major means opposite of major is minor. Major means big, minor means small, because there are two pectoralis muscles. So one is major, other is minor. It's so simple. Let us try to understand the different ways of naming the muscles according to location. If you come to the upper limb in the arm is called as brachium. The muscle which is present in the brachium is called as brachialis. Again, lis is the suffix. So brachialis is only one muscle, so we don't have brachialis major minor. So brachialis. Another muscle is gluteus, which is present on the buttock, okay, in the lower limb. And glutea is the name of anatomical name of the buttock. And the muscle which is present on the buttock is called as gluteus. But there are three of them. You come to the last line, relative size of muscle: gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, and gluteus minimus. Maximus is maximum, minimus is minimum, and medius means in between, middle. So maximum is which is more in size, and minimum is less in size, and medius means medium in size. So this is how the names are derived. For example, according to action, there is one abductor brevis on the thigh muscle, okay, medial compartment of thigh. And adductor comes from action because that muscle helps in adduction of thigh, so it is adductor. And it is brevis because it is opposite of longus. Longus is a long muscle, brevis is a short muscle as compared to that. So adductor brevis. Another example is direction of fibers. So the muscle has got fibers, and these muscle fibers, if they are straight, that muscle is called as rectus. And if they are oblique, it is called as obliquus. So rectus, obliquus are these two words are according to the direction of fibers. Now rectus abdominis is due to location, that rectus abdominis muscle is located on the abdomen. So it is called as rectus abdominis. There is one muscle on the thigh, rectus femoris. So that femoris means thigh, femora means thigh. So it is rectus femoris. Another muscle is another way of naming the muscle is shape. Shape means shape of that muscle. Now one muscle looks like delta, you know, the delta which is an alphabet in Greek. So that delta is triangular, inverted triangle, what we call. So deltoid muscles look like a delta. So it is called as deltoid. And the light is gone. Well, deltoid. Oh, please come back. There was a problem with the internet connectivity. So let us proceed further. I was here and I was dealing with the nomenclature of muscles. Nomenclature of muscles means muscle names, how the muscles are derived. So I was talking about shape, delta shape is for deltoid. And number of head, if there are 2 heads, it is called as bicep. If there are 3 heads of origin, it is called as tricep. If there are 4 heads of origin, it is called as quadriceps. Origin, according to origin and insertion. There is one muscle called as sternocleidomastoid. So there are 2 heads of origin. One is from sternum, other is from clavicle, and there is one insertion head that is called as mastoid process of temporalis bone. So it is called as sternocleidomastoid. And I told you according to relative size. So we'll go to this study today, that is nomenclature of muscles. So how muscles are named? The muscles have been named in a number of ways. Okay, number of ways that we saw today, and we will. I mean, in the earlier slide, you saw that. Now we will see that again through this further, slides. First is according to their shape. Trapezius, it looks like a trapezium. Rhomboides, it looks like a rhomboid. Serratus anterior, it has got a serration on anterior side. Latissimus dorsi, it is like a latitude. Longissimus is like a longitude, and latissimus is like a latitude. Okay, longitudes and latitudes, if you know the geometry. Then according to the number of heads of origin, for example, biceps 2 heads, triceps 3 heads, quadriceps 4 heads, and digastric again two bellies. They are called as 2 bellies. According to their gross structure, so according to the structure, semi-tendinosus means the muscle which is half tendon. Semi-membranosus means muscle which is half member. They look like tendon, they look like member. Then according to their location, for example, if one muscle is located in one region, it is called as, say for example, the region is a tempora. The muscle in the tempora is called as temporalis. Supraspinatus means above the spine of the scapula, so it's called as supraspinatus. Intercostalis, they are present between the ribs, so intercostal space. According to their attachments, so here they are attachment like origin and insertion. Styloid, origin is styloid process and insertion is on the hyoid bone. Cricothyroid, origin on the cricoid cartilage, insertion on the thyroid cartilage. Likewise, there are many examples which we can give for every type, but due to time constraint, I am limiting to some examples. According to their function, like adductor longus, adduction is a function, so this muscle helps in adduction, and that muscle is long, so longus. Flexor carpi ulnaris, so flexor carpi ulnaris means flexion of wrist, and on the it is present on the ulnar side, so ulnaris. Okay, adductor pollicis longus, abductor, so this muscle abducts the pollicis means thumb, pollex means thumb, abductor pollicis longus, because there is another abductor pollicis brevis. According to direction of their muscle fibers, that also I told you, rectus abdominis means straight, obliquus abdominis means oblique, and transversus abdominis means transverse. Direction of fiber is transverse. Here you can see in this in this picture, shapes of muscles. Deltoid is like a delta. Okay, you can see the triangular shoulder, spindle arm, legs. Usually triangular are present on the shoulders, spindle are present on arms and legs, flat are present in the diaphragm, forehead, circular present in mouth and anus. There is a orbicularis oris, so it's called circular around the mouth. Okay. Now naming skeletal muscles by shape. Here you can see the trapezius looks like a trapezium. Deltoid looks like a delta. Here you can see trapezoid, two parallel sides. Delta is a triangle, inverted triangle. Serratus means saw tooth like, the saw which has got a tooth like. Rhomboid means they are looking like a rhomboid, four parallel sides. And orbicularis oris or sphincters in the anus, they are circular because those are openings. So this is according to Sale. Here you can see muscles named for action. Flexor carpi radialis, extensor carpi radialis is opposite of that. Okay, abductor pollicis brevis. So adductor pollicis opposite that. So one flexes, other extends. One abducts, other adducts. Okay, abductor magnus. It abducts the thigh. Magnus means magnum, huge. Extensor digitorum. Digitorum means all the 4 digits, and they extend the digits. They are called as extensors. They extend fingers. It's very easy to understand through these pictures also. Muscles named for action. Now flexor carpi radialis flexes wrist. Abductor magnus abducts thigh. Extensor digitorum extends finger. Now levator. It lifts, elevates. So levator palpebris superioris or levator scapulae. It elevates the scapula. Likewise. Now muscles named for origin and insertion. Sternocleidomastoid. If you see the sternocleidomastoid, this is a sternal head and this is the clavicular head. Cleido means clavicle. Sternocleidomastoid. Here there is an insertion on the mastoid process of the temporal bone. It originates from sternum and clavicle and inserts on a mastoid process of the temporal bone. This is an example to show you the origin and insertion, how these muscles are named as. And this sternocleidomastoid is sometimes called as sternomastoid, short made. In short, sternomastoid. Muscles named for number of origins. So biceps has got 2 origins, 2 heads of origins. So long head, this long head and short head. Short head is from corrected process. Long head is from the supraglenoid tubercle. They unite to form the biceps belly. Okay, so this is bicep. Triceps has got 3 heads, long head, then lateral head and medial head. So it is triceps brachii. It is present in the brachial region, so it's called a brachii. Quadriceps is present in the thigh, quadriceps femoris. So it has got 4 heads. Muscles named by direction of fibers. Rectus means straight. You can see this rectus, what we call amongst the bodybuilders, six pack or what they call 6 packs. Okay, because of that rectus muscle. Transversus and obliquus. These are, you can see transverse and oblique here. External obliquus abdominis is the name of that muscle. Muscles named by location. Now epicranius. AP means above. So it is called as above the cranium, on the cranium. So epicranius. Tibialis anterior, on in front of tibia. So anterior because it is in front of tibia. Tibialis anterior. Tibialis posterior. Okay. These are by location. Names of muscles are descriptive due to relative size. Pectoralis major, major means large, and pectoralis minor means small. Deltoid is like a delta or a triangle. Location, extensor digitorum, extensor for extension of digits, fingers or toes. They are present in the hand, also in the foot also. Extensor digitorum for extension. Number of attachment, biceps brachii, biceps means 2 heads, direction of fibers. So this is all. If you take any example, you see, if I have forgotten some name, there are some names like which doesn't fall into all of these categories, like soleus. There is one muscle in the calf of your leg, soleus. So it is called soleus because it looks like a soul. Soul means like a heart. Okay, so it's called as soleus. So such kind of names are also there. There are so many muscles. I told you there are around 320 pairs of muscles in your body as far as skeletal muscles are concerned, and there are no names for smooth muscles, or cardiac muscle is only one, and no names for the myoepithelial cells. So you have to talk only about the skeletal muscles in order to understand the various names. Now let us go to the other part of today's topic, that is blood supply of skeletal muscle. Blood supply is derived from the muscular branches from the neighboring arteries. That's all. The artery which is passing by the side of muscle, you will give one branch to that muscle. The arteries and veins and motor nerve, they pierce the muscle at a fairly constant point, which is called as neurovascular hilum. The muscle has got a neurovascular hilum. Through that hilum, artery, vein, and nerve pass, okay, for their functions. Subsidiary arteries may enter the muscle near the ends also. There are other arteries may also enter, just like a bone. Bone has got a nutrient artery foramina. Here there is a neurovascular hilum. The arteries divide repeatedly to form arterioles in the perimysium and capillaries in the endomysium for nutritive circulation. Arteriovenous anastomosis are abundant in the epimysium and perimysium for non-nutritive circulation during muscular contraction. For contraction also, circulation is required. Now, what is the lymphatic drainage from the muscle? Lymphatics means lymph vessels. Lymphatics accompany the vessels, blood vessels, and drain into the neighboring lymph nodes. Okay. Nerve supply of skeletal muscle. Nerve supply is very important because muscle require more motor function because they have to go into contraction. It also requires sensory, but main is motor. The nerve supplying a muscle is called a motor nerve. In fact, it is a mixed nerve and consists of the following types of fibers. So motor fibers of 60%. They comprise large myelinated alpha efferents which supply extrafusal muscle fibers, smaller myelinated gamma efferent which supply intrafusal fibers of the muscle spindles, and the fine non-myelinated autonomic efferent which supply smooth muscle fibers of the blood vessels. So blood vessels are having smooth muscle. You just remember that motor fibers are of 60% and sensory fibers are of 40%. This much is enough for you. Sensory fibers comprising myelinated fibers distributed to the muscle spindles, tendons, and local fascia, because that is required for, if not for the touch is for the skin, for the pressure, okay, for pressure it is required. And non-myelinated fibers carrying pain sensations under uncertain origin. So whatever the pain is felt in the muscle is also carried by, these non-myelinated fibers. So 40% is for sensory and 60% is for motor function, because muscle has more work to do in a motor form because of its contraction. Now, what are the actions of muscle? Broadly, when a muscle contracts, it shortens by 1/3. 30% is reduced. The belly gets reduced by 30% by length and brings about a movement. The range of movement depends on the length of fleshy fibers, and the force of movement depends on the number of fibers. So length and number of fibers decides, whether the range of movement is more or the force of movement is more. For example, we'll go to example later on. Each movement at a joint is brought about by a coordinated activity of different groups of muscles. So it is not one muscle which is responsible for one movement. It is a coordination of different muscles. These muscle groups are classified and named according to their function as ergonists. Ergonists means prime movers. The prime means main mover of that concerned movement. Agonists bring about a desired movement. Whatever desired movement you want is brought by these agonist muscles. When a prime mover helps opposite action by active control lengthening against gravity, it is known as action of paradox. I'll show you the examples. Example like putting a glass back on the table. If you take a glass and drink it, and if you put it back to the table, the gravity also works, but it is controlled by the gradual active lengthening of the biceps. So this is not only gravity, but gradual lengthening has to be. Otherwise, if you leave, suddenly the glass will fall on the ground. So it is a coordinated movement. So that is why I'm showing you one example here. For the purpose of flexion, biceps is required. So it is called as ergonist. But at the same time, for flexion, the triceps has to get relaxed. And triceps relaxed, so it is called as antagonist. Then only agonist can do its bicep contraction. So when I'm doing contraction of my arm, This contraction of my arm is brought about by the biceps muscle, and it is assisted by the antagonist muscle, that is triceps muscle. So there is some advertisement going on outside regarding cleanliness, Swachh Bharat, and so on. Local civil body van has come outside and is disturbing us. So yes, good, thank you. And he will come again. Now here you can see it is now replaced. Here there is extension during extension. Now the extension has taken place and triceps has become an agonist and bicep has relaxed, so it has become antagonist. So if you see, the flexion is also assisted by both the muscles and extension is also assisted by the both the muscles. But one which acts for that action is called as agonist, and one which assists, okay, or it, it helps, so it is called as antagonist. Now in this group, you see the antagonist muscle, they are called as opponents. If the agonists are called as prime movers, antagonists are called as opponent in English. They oppose the prime movers, and that is why we get a coordinated movement. They help the prime movers by active controlled relaxation so that the desired movement is smooth and precise. So when you want to keep glass down, the glass doesn't fall on the ground due to gravity because the muscles are giving controlled relaxation for that moment. Here you can see the examples. Thus antagonists cooperate rather than oppose the primer. So opponent हा शब्द तसा बघायला गेला तर इतका फिट नाही आहे, म्हणून ते अँटागोनिस्टच बरोबर आहे. This is due to reciprocal innervation of these opposite groups of muscles regulated by the spinal cord through stretch reflex. Now see, look at this GIF. Your bicep becomes antagonist and agonist, and triceps is also becoming agonist and antagonist. So during which time it becomes, when there is a contraction, it becomes agonist. When there is a relaxation, it becomes antagonist. So this is a good GIF to make you understand. So in one action, the thing is different, and in other action, the thing is different. So both are agonist and antagonist, but during contraction, they are called as agonist. So during relaxation, they are called as antagonist. You can't say that bicep is an agonist and triceps and antagonist. You have to give example of a name of the movement. During flexion of arm, okay, flexion, you can say biceps is agonist and triceps is antagonist, and it is vice versa during extension. Well, now here you can see one more example. See the flexion and extension going on, and contraction and relaxation is going on simultaneously. This is how you study, and you apply these two remaining muscles in the body. We don't have that much of time to show you every muscle. You see the how contraction takes place and how relaxation takes place. At the same time, the thing becomes vice versa, contraction and relaxation. Okay. These are some of the GIFs which I brought for you to show you how the muscles they contract and relax, and when they are called as agonist and when they are called as antagonist. Now, not only agonist, so we require fixators and synergists also. Fixators are the groups of muscles which stabilize the proximal joints of a limb so that the desired movement of the distal joint may occur on a fixed base. So if I hold my hand, in a straight, this is some muscles have worked in fixing my hand, and then I go for flexion and extension of my hand. So flexion of extension of my hand is taking place at the same time my forearm and arm is hold for the purpose of fixation, fixators. And here you can see fixators are required at proximal place in order to have action at the distal place. And there are synergist muscles also. When the prime movers cross more than one joint, the undesired actions at the proximal joints are prevented by certain muscles known as synergists. So for example, during making a tight fist by long digital flexors, you're making a tight fist, मूठ जास्त जोरात आवळली, तर काय होईल? The wrist is kept fixed in extension by the synergists. So extensions of wrist are, you can feel they are gone into synergism. Thus the synergists are special fixators and partial antagonists to the prime movers. So altogether we got agonist, antagonist, what you call fixators and synergists. So these muscles, they work in coordination. Then and then only you will get desired action in your body. We are moving our body like anything anyhow as we like, but there are certain what you call aspects which we need to understand as a student of anatomy and as a student of science. ओके, फुकटचा वापरण्यात काय अर्थ नाही, सगळं समजून घेणं गरजेचं आहे. नाउ दिस अप्लाय दिस टू एव्हरी मसल इन द बॉडी फॉर फर्दर डिटेल्स. नाउ विल गो टू applied anatomy of muscles in short. Paralysis is due to loss of motor power, and it is called as paralysis. Actually, this is a disease of nervous system, but muscles get affected, so I included here. This is due to inability of the muscles to contract caused by damage to the motor neural pathways, upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron, by inherent disease muscles, or myopathy also. Damage to upper motor neuron causes spastic paralysis with exaggerated tendon jerks, and damage to the lower motor neuron causes flaccid paralysis with loss of tendon jerks. Here you can see different types of paralysis. Monoplegia means one limb is involved. Hemiplegia means both the side of both the limbs are involved on one side. Diplegia means both the hands are involved. Paraplegia means both the legs are involved. Quadriplegia means all four limbs are involved. Quadri, four, para, parallel. Likewise, these are the types of paralysis. You just remember, paralysis of muscle is called by the loss of motor function, and this is the muscle is getting affected. We are including here. Another is muscular spasm. This is very common. तुम्हाला पण झाला असेल. So it happens to everybody. These are quite painful also, so you remember them. Localized muscle spasm is commonly caused by a muscle pull. It's called as muscle pull. Okay, some people call it as a catch also. And in order to relieve pain, the muscles should be relaxed by appropriate treatment. Generalized muscle spasm occur in tetanus and epilepsy. So in epilepsy, the whole body goes into spasm. In tetanus also, whole body goes into spasm. But one single muscle going into spasm is very quite common. Everybody suffers from that one sometimes in the year. Here you can see calf muscles have gone in a spasm in this image. And next is disused atrophy and hypertrophy. The muscles which are not used for a long time become thin and weak. This is called as disused atrophy. And conversely, adequate or excess use of particular muscle causes their better development or even hypertrophy. So muscular wasting means reduction in size, is a feature of lower motor neuron paralysis and generalized debility also. Here you can see one hypertrophic image, because this person is going for a bodybuilding, so they have got hypertrophied muscle. Here you can see normal biceps, and here you can see atrophied bicep muscle. Atrophy means it has decreased in size. So atrophy, hypertrophy, these words are related to the muscle. And regeneration of the skeletal muscle is as compared to epithelial tissue and connective tissue is very weak. Skeletal muscle is capable of limited regeneration. If large regions are damaged, regeneration does not occur, and the missing muscle is replaced by connective tissue. Here you can see the muscle is damaged, you will have connective tissue after repairing. So regeneration is very, very limited in case of muscle, and as you go further to nervous tissue, there is no regeneration. And if you go on using your body for different exercises and for a longer time, you have to take rest up. If you do keep on doing exercise again and again and again and again, the stage comes where your muscles go in the fatigue. So in the first lecture I told you what is fatigue, and if I keep on speaking like this for longer time, I will also go in fatigue, and you will also go in fatigue because you are listening patiently for last more than half hour, and that is why muscles go in fatigue. So here you see athlete has gone in a fatigue after running for a longer time. So muscular fatigue is quite common characteristic of skeletal muscle, but that is not so in case of smooth muscle. Smooth muscle go in fatigue very slow, and for cardiac muscle there is no question of fatigue, because if the heart goes in fatigue, we will not remain here. So cardiac muscles are having branched pattern, branching and anastomosing pattern of the muscle fibers. So if one fiber goes in fatigue, immediately other fiber, copes up, and that is how heart keeps on beating for a lifetime since its inception till the death. So this is a difference. But skeletal muscles, they go in the fatigue, and that is why after some time, after every bigger action, after some time, you require a rest to regain a boost, and then you can come back again with the same kind of action. Likewise, that is why we take one lecture every day. Otherwise, whole day if I keep on giving lectures, I'll have some problem with my muscles which I'm using, my hands and my muscles of my tongue and my mouth. So that is why we have to limit every action to certain extent. And with this, my dear students, I thanks a lot for patiently listening me. And we have finished general myology today, and we will come back to the next topic from tomorrow onwards. And I hope so. In general anatomy, we have to deal with nervous system. So I'll take nervous system tomorrow. And till then, bye to all of you, and have a nice day ahead today. Thank you. Thanks a lot.